Thank you very much.
Uh, yeah, okay. My name is Mike McDermott, 840 Northeast 127th Street. Um, I've been here 45 years in the same house in Central City, North Miami. And I certainly agree on a lot of points that everybody has brought up. I don't think it's an issue of not having competent, hardworking staff. I think we have very competent and hardworking staff. I don't think it's that. I think that you as the planners, I think the gentleman with the Jewish Community Center hit on the point. There is a real disconnect between the citizens and the city council as to visions. The city council is very smart. They're very talented, dedicated people. I think there is the gridlock he talked about. So I think you have very competent and intelligent citizens. I think you have very competent and intelligent city council persons. You as planners can't go much beyond the city council level. Staff can't go much beyond recommendations and the city council level. So perhaps his point is right on. Need to create some kind of system, way for the citizens and the city council directly to go head to head and come up with a mutual vision of what this city really needs. You know, the mayor is visionary, and he talked about he wants to see cranes in the air. We can't have cranes in the air if the building height limitations don't even require cranes in the air. So, you know, we need to, address the one. We have a good city council. We have a lot of potential. We have a great city staff. I think that really it comes down to the fact of, one of the things, if you look at, I've been fortunate to go and visit because I'm on the CRA board and visited most of the CRAs on the East Coast and several on the West Coast of Florida on my own time. And one of the things that I've come to see is that real progress happens when the citizens and the city council are on the same page going in the same direction. And that's when real dynamic development happens. And I think that we have the personnel to do it. We have the will to do it on both sides. I think we need to somehow create that venue of the city council and the citizens sitting down and agreeing on this is our vision, because North Miami has too much potential and there's too many great people that live here not to have that happen.
Hi, I'm Laura Hill at 13075 Griffin Boulevard. We can sit and discuss what happens in this comprehensive plan. We can argue over the language and what we think it should say, but last time I drove down the road, which was tonight, I noticed downtown still has no real reason for anyone to stop and shop there. It's not worth your time, and I'm just going to be honest because we all know it. It's not worth your time looking for a parking spot because there's not a whole lot to look at down there. It doesn't have to be that way. Downtown we have these plans, we have these great plans and these great ideas. Let's start implementing them. I don't know what the holdup is. I want to see restaurants, I want to see shops, I want to see people walking up and down our clean avenues. I want to stop saying, let's be Wynwood. I want Wynwood people to start coming to North Miami because it's cool. Because let's go to North Miami. They have a lot of cool things to do. We don't have a whole lot to do. We need to start talking less and doing more. We want to build these high rises. Well, we need to have a reason for people to want to come to North Miami. We're in a great location. We're a big city. We have so much potential, but it seems like we do a lot of talking in circles and not a lot of actually getting it done. What's the point of having this? Sometimes I see the things that the city does, and it absolutely contradicts everything that's in that plan. So you kind of wonder, why aren't we just getting out there and doing it? I want to see these little renderings become a reality. I don't want to go to Coconut Grove on the weekend because it's cool. I want to stay in North Miami. I went to Mocha, Jazz at Mocha the other night. It was awesome. I sat out there with my kids, with some of the neighbors. We brought a little picnic and listened to jazz, and I said, you know what? This is what North Miami should be. These are the cool things that are starting to develop, but we need to push it further. There needs to be more events. There needs to be more shops. It needs to be easier to get a business on 125th. And there needs to be assurances to the people who take the risk that people are going to come down there, that there's enough reason to come down to North Miami. So I don't know what the solution is. I know we hire a lot of people in this city to find out what the solution is. But I kind of want to see the city move forward, and I want to see it with my own eyes as I'm driving down the avenue, not just in these updated packets of paper that we spend a lot of time discussing. So whether we need to approach higher buildings, maybe we need to do a little bit of both. Maybe it's not just carte blanche to every developer who wants to come around. Smart development, it doesn't have to be all or nothing. We have to improve the infrastructure in order to sustain the business. A has to come before B, but it doesn't mean that B doesn't come. We need to make this city better, more interesting, and improve the quality of life, and give people a reason to look for a parking spot when they're driving down 125th. Okay? That's all I got to say about that.
Hi, my name is Holly Cohen. I live in Keystone Point. I originally did not think I was going to talk tonight, but after listening to that young woman, I agree with her. We do have to do more to have growth and development and create a great city. However, I have the fortunate or unfortunate ability to talk on one side. I sit on the Board of Adjustment with my eyes closed. And I see what's happening in this city. We have a zoning, we have LDRs, we have everything put into action. And then what do? We go ahead and do spot planning and spot zoning. And we change this, and we cut away something on this end, and we cut away something at that end, and we build something that shouldn't be there. We can't have restaurants and bars now in a certain part of downtown North Miami because we put a school there, and the rules and regulations won't allow it. But our planning commission and whoever else deals with this had decided that that's a good thing, and they approve it. Fact is, we need a plan. We need a zoning ordinance that cannot be chipped away. We need something that shows where we want the city to go and what is the actual plan and what is the future that we want to build for this city. And we don't have that. And what we really are starting to have is a piecemeal type of zoning. Let's vote for this and let's vote for that, and let's let this happen, and without a formulating a real plan of action of how we want the city to be. I agree, we need growth. We really do. We don't have a broad enough base for our taxes. However, we got to do it in a way that is fundamentally sound, that if we're going to build a big building, let's build it in a place that they could get out of their parking lot, that they don't have to make U-turns, that people aren't put in jeopardy, that we don't put a school in an area where we want bars and restaurants, that we don't put a nursing home next to that bar, and so on and so forth. I mean, we really need to have zoning.
Think that one.
Well, let's bring the bar to the nursing home, and I think they would prefer that. That way they don't have to walk across a busy street. I mean, I really think we need a plan and a real idea of where we want the city to be. not in 5 years, not in 10 years, but in 50 years. What do we want it to look like? And everyone talks about Windward and downtown Miami. It's bleak. You have gorgeous streets, buildings. The streets are horrible. It's a parking lot. But you have beautiful buildings, but not one tree, not one green area, not one place to take a walk. I was in Windward. I had to get off the street because it was too damn hot. There was no shade. We got to have a vision, but the vision has to be in concrete so that we all of a sudden don't find, oh, we shouldn't have done that, and they're grandfathered in. That's all I have to say.
Good evening. My name is Jesus Ramon. I live at 12785 Cypress Road. I want to change the tone of this conversation a little bit because, boy, I'm getting depressed. I was in the Planning Commission for about 8 years. By the way, that gentleman, Kevin Seifried, that just spoke, a couple folks before me, 25 years on the Planning Commission. Outstanding gentleman. Just a little shout out, he actually stepped off the Planning Commission because he didn't get reappointed. So just, if anybody has the power to put him back on, please do. He wants to be on. Right, Kevin? Right. So let me mention something very quickly that I think is being lost in all this, because we're all talking in terms of what we have missed. I actually see that as a great opportunity. I think we can look at this as a golden opportunity for this reason. Everybody else is built out. We already know what they did. We know what Aventura did, Surfside, everybody else. And here we sit with the sixth largest city, pristine for redevelopment. So I actually am very excited. I'm actually glad that people before us were incompetent, because now they just handed us a great mayor that has a vision, that is willing to work, with a spotless track record, and I don't know him from anything other than a couple times I've met him, speaks the right language, has the right vision, and we have a city that we can build on. So I don't think we should be like so negative. We have a great new city manager that has a lot of experience, knows how, so we are in a very unique position to move forward. So we've had problems. So by the way, I was there 7 years ago when you were here as a planning commissioner. And there was a lot of work. I also have to remember people that you can't go from 30 years without doing a comprehensive plan to a brand new comprehensive plan that is perfect. So if that's what we were shooting for, it wasn't going to happen. So now we have the benefit of that too. So I think we should be very positive. Are we going to have problems? Absolutely. Is this perfect? No. Is it going to be perfect? No. Is everybody going to be happy? No. But we have a lot of opportunity, and I think we happen to be getting all these great things that just align themselves. I don't think anybody ever thought that you would run without any competition, and here you are. Perfect. You don't have to spend time on that junk and actually help me move this forward. So I think we should be very, very positive about this. Money will drive this process. You change some of these things. I think the developers will come because they're running out of space everywhere else. The one thing I would suggest, two little things on that list. One is we always talk about how greatly centered North Miami is, but have you noticed that you can't get anywhere without a car here? So what's the point of being 2-3 miles from one of the most beautiful beaches here, but you don't have transportation to get over there unless you have a car, which, by the way, it's hard to park over there. So you can't use it. The average person can't go over there unless they get a car, and they pay now it's going to be $4.50 or so an hour to park over there when the new meters come in. So transportation to get over there, and of course making it walker friendly, pedestrian friendly, that is. But I know it's hard because these are all state roads, but man, we gotta be, I mean, if you get a bike and you try to go to the beach here, which is, you're gonna get killed, you know. So anything we can do. I know that 7 years ago this was a big part of what we looked at. We've done little things like do one-day events, which everybody loves, but it's really not built into our plan. So anyway, that's all I have to say. So please don't be depressed by this. I think we have a great opportunity. I would look at the fact that somebody didn't do their job for 30 years as a blessing for us not to take it home. So, anyway, thank you.
My name's William Simpson, 2005 Alamanda. I've lived in this city for 62 years. We came here from Buena Vista, right down by where you're talking, Wynwood, in 1953. I've lived in the central part of the city. Now I live on the east side. I agree with a lot of the stuff that's been said tonight. I agree. We need to move forward. I don't know how high, I don't know how low. But the one thing I would say that's only been mentioned 1 or 2 times is the traffic, okay? I want to see a realistic, comprehensive traffic study before any of this is implemented. Now, I'm not one of these fuel-burning guys that drives a Hummer, okay? My wife, my daughter, and I, we use bicycles, but we drive. We're realistic. Right now, if you go to the shopping center where they want over by where they want to build the Tauber at Walgreens, the traffic and the parking, and I'm sure Mr. Hindmarsh would agree with me because I see him there at Panera. The traffic, the parking is so horrible that when I wanted to go to West Marine, I said to my wife, I don't even want you to drop me off at West Marine. I'll take my bicycle. So we ride our bikes over there. We ride our bikes to FIU. We ride our bikes to Surfside. We go to the beach. But I want to see a realistic, comprehensive, workable traffic plan before we start putting more cars and more people. Thank you.
William, this is a very, very important point. As a matter of fact, about 2 or 3 weeks ago, when we had the meeting in the conference room, and is Tanya here? I know you like to talk, so come forward. Yeah, she has. No, you want to do that before? Okay. No, she was. No, because we actually. There were actually comprehensive studies done about the traffic. That's why I wanted to give her like 2 minutes, if you can answer the question that was just posed.
I think just in terms of a general infrastructure statement, our consultant said it early on in the discussion, and I want to revisit that point again. A part of sustainability planning is really not just going higher and denser and bigger without adequately assessing and determining if you have the appropriate infrastructure to support that. So whether it's the roads to be able to transport people to and from, or whether it's the water and sewer infrastructure system, one of the things that the state will look at when North Miami proposes its density, right now our maximum density is like 90 dwelling units per acre. Back in 2007, the state looked at our infrastructure and they said as dense and as high as you can go is based on the old infrastructure that you have in the city currently. So one of the things that we have to understand, it's not just a rejection of greater heights or density at this point. The conversation that we have to have is how do we have sustainable development? If North Miami is to be higher or denser, that's still a conversation that's up for debate. But the critical point that we have to be able to wrap our arms around at this point, how do we move forward for the next 10 to 20 years with the failing infrastructure that we have, with a growing population, with increasing demand for development? That is the critical question that needs to be asked. Not just myopically looking at, I want to be Wynwood or I want to be Aventura. There's a statement that's made in the Word that says any man that builds a house has to first consider the cost. And I think realistically as a city, we have to consider the cost of development. The cost of development is that you have to have an infrastructure that can support that new growth. So I think in terms of the conversation, and I'm hoping that there was a point that was added to the screen, there has to be a policy statement that says North Miami will assess the feasibility of being denser or being higher, because you can't just arbitrarily want and ask and desire for something without knowing how you're going to pay for those infrastructure improvements. That's another conversation in terms of capital improvement planning. How do I pay for the new development that I so desire or I'm so looking for? So I think that's a conversation that we're having right now that's critical and important if we intend to be sustainable and we intend to be successful as a city that is competing with the Wynwoods and the Aventura, and I'll go even further with Palm Beach County for development. We have to be ready to have the supporting infrastructure. So when development is here, the private sector is knocking, because we're at the front line. We see the developers daily and we know what the demands are, and we are hearing for heights that actually right now are less than the 150 feet maximum, but we may be hearing greater demands further along. But we're saying as a city, we have to start planning for future success if that's intentional and that's something that we desire.
Thank you very much.
Correct. And in terms of the traffic studies that were done back in 2007, an assessment was made. A traffic study was done as a part of the data inventory and analysis portion of the comprehensive plan, and it was determined based on the densities and the maximum heights that we have of 150 feet. We do have the appropriate level of service right now based on the maximum numbers that we have in our comprehensive plan. If we intend to go higher and we intend to go denser, there has to be an accommodation for investing in improving the infrastructure. I hope that's clear so that realistically we can understand that there's a price for going higher and there's a price certainly for going denser. And that's the constructive discussion that we need to have beyond I want high and I want dense. Sure. We're having two conversations. Absolutely. Absolutely. Mm-hmm. Robert Moses, we're familiar with him. Mm-hmm. 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 And I agree, Mr. Each. I agree that traffic translates to economic development, but the point that we make through the comprehensive plan process is how do I plan sustainably for that? I can't just invite traffic without properly planning and projecting and budgeting for the deluge that I'm going to have in the next 10 to 20 years. So the conversation has to be focused on what type of policy statement do I include in my comprehensive plan so that moving forward, we're prepared and ready for the change and for the increased density and development that we're anticipating that's going to come on board.
Yeah, just take a few moments and I'll make note as you speak. And then after
Yeah,
he's done, we're just going to wrap it up.
Earlier talk was a little bit more of a rant, and I hope it got your attention. This is something a little bit more productive, as I always try to with the city, try to do something that's constructive and solve these things. First, in terms of gridlock, I'd like everybody to know it's not really our own cars that are causing this gridlock. It's people bypassing this city, going from the one side to the east and west, north and south. They are really causing the problem. Part of that problem is because we are just a bedroom community and people are not living and working here. If we adopted live-work arrangements in our new structures, you wouldn't have people getting in the car to leave in the morning to come back at night. They would live and work, like in the art district, and therefore you wouldn't get this congestion. And in addition to that, since we have to deal with the people passing by, where is the study that shows us secondary means bypassing Biscayne Boulevard, bypassing 125th Street? We haven't done that. We haven't studied it at all, and we really need to. We need to have secondary means and to look at that and develop those for years to come. In addition to that, we're talking about the environment. A very simple thing that can be enacted right away is immediately say that structured parking below buildings is exempt from the heights. It gets you off the floodplain, it increases the value of the property, stops the sprawling of parking all around thing. You have more landscaping, it's just a win-win. There are less bugs, there's better ventilation. It'll add to the property values. Immediately, that can be done. Exempt structured parking from the height requirements, and it's a win-win for everybody. You'll be looking at less parking lots. It'll be a more beautiful city. Third thing, high rises. if we want to have high rises, and many of us do, there should be a trade-off and can be a trade-off. Where is the plan for new parks? I didn't see proposal for any one park, not in the downtown plan or anything else. Never another square foot of park space. Why is it that we can't have our cake and eat it too? Let's go taller, but let's also add to our park reserve. Either that immediately by the high-rise building that they have additional set aside of green space or designated space, or that they go into a land bank and a certain fee or something goes to the city that's going to put, it will go towards putting a park in the area of the city that needs it most. Let's identify it where it needs it most. We can get land fairly cheap these days on many parts of the city. We can increase our parks, and it'll be a better city for everybody. So we'll be able to go higher, and greener. In addition to that, the status quo. It's not really even status quo when we talk about this. When we keep everything the same, and you look around and everything is just coming apart and disintegrating, and we get less and less interest in it, you're not even staying the same. You're really getting a pit that's getting lower and lower. You're getting less tax revenues. You're going to increase your need for police, for education, for other services, and that's going to be a detriment. It's a downward spiral if we keep things supposedly status quo. Therefore, just by default, you need to change just to stay even in some capacity. And finally, there was mention of North Bayshore Drive and the buildings over there and their heights and such, and what would or would not be developed. In Manhattan, there's a parcel. It's at 5th Avenue and 34th Street. And about the turn of the century was a farmland farmhouse. And then somebody comes by, the Astor family, and they build the Astor Mansion there. And a few years later, the Astors build the Waldorf Astoria. And a few years later, in about a span of about 50, 60 years, they build the Empire State Building. Exactly how bad did that turn out? And you're going to say that over on Bayshore Drive that there's no chance of a building that has 27 units right now that is now currently zoned to be 9 units and basically the same height, but you go from 27 units that's allowed, that's in place now, down to 9 units, and that's a positive for our community? That's exactly mine. And all the others, no, it's not the only one. I just gave you the example that maybe other people would like to and should be able to develop that, whether it's Majorca, whether it's Mariners Bay, or whether it's others. We have an entire strip there that at some point you would be able to identify as potential development. It would increase the values of that, and you'd get additional revenue for the city. Right now, you're not getting additional revenue. It's straining all the resources.
Thank you. I just make one comment. So this is part of what I said earlier. What you see here, you see this interaction is basically, in my opinion,
The gridlock.
bickering. It's bickering around a particular issue without dealing with what a couple of people said earlier, which is the larger issue of agreeing on a plan. Without agreement on a plan, all you're going to do is bicker about different things, and you go nowhere. And I think everybody in this room sees that. Does anybody disagree with me? If you disagree with me, raise your hand.
Well, no, well. That is absolutely correct. Correct. And I think with that, I think that's a good segue into wrapping up this session. We're a few minutes after 8. Actually, we've had some tremendous input here. We have this list. Can we post this on the city's website? We're going to post this on the website so that you can have it front and center to remember. And I want to summarize because I want to make sure I understand. When we were here in 2007, there was a struggle, as Mayor Burns said, in the city to get away from 4 stories, to get that height limitation out of the charter and take some steps forward at that time to go a little bit bigger. What I'm hearing tonight, though, is what seems to be a consensus among everyone here to go forward responsibly, looking at infrastructure, but to go even bigger, taller, denser. And so we're going to take that under advisement and include that in the plan. And it will go forward to the Planning Commission in June, is what we have slated, correct? It cannot go in May. May is next week. And we have to have time to incorporate these comments and formulate these goals, objectives, and policies, and we want to do so in a complete and responsible manner. So we intend to take this forward in June. It will be advertised at that meeting. It will be a public hearing, and subsequent to that, it will go on to the City Council for consideration. Yes. Okay. Yes, what Tanya just said is that I should clarify that it's not going to be a change on the map. We're not allowed by the state to do that until we have policies in place to study, but that's the step forward, to study the condition of the infrastructure and the feasibility of going denser, and that's what we're going to include in the plan as a recommendation, and we'll take it forward to the elected body in that fashion. So I want to thank everyone for coming this evening. I think it's been a fabulous workshop, and we'll see you in June, I hope, at the Planning Commission meeting. All right, that's it.